The Bennetts were the kind of couple everyone envied. David, 38, a software consultant who worked from home, and Claire, 35, a school counselor with a calming voice and a perfect smile. Their house in Willow Creek was the kind realtors used to close deals. Neat garden, wind chimes on the porch, curtains always half-drawn. To the world, they were flawless. To David, they were fine. Every morning followed the same rhythm. Claire's humming in the kitchen, coffee brewing, the faint smell of lavender detergent from freshly laundered sheets. It was comfortable, predictable, safe. But lately, David had begun to sense a strange stillness between them, like the quiet before a storm. Conversations felt shorter. Claire's laughter came with a delay, as if rehearsed. That Saturday morning, he decided to rearrange their bedroom. "A new setup," he said casually, "might help me sleep better." Claire smiled faintly, agreeing too quickly. By noon, the bed was pushed against the opposite wall, the old dresser removed, and a sleek new one waiting in its place, a gift David had bought online without telling her. When he began unscrewing the mirror from the packaging, something metallic caught his eye, a tiny hole, no bigger than a pinhead, hidden behind the glass near the top corner. He frowned, leaning closer. Inside, a faint red light blinked once, then went still. His stomach tightened. "Probably a sensor," he whispered to himself, trying to laugh it off. But his hands moved differently now, careful, deliberate. He flipped the mirror and found a small compartment taped behind the backing. Inside it, a black square object. No brand, no label. Just a camera lens staring up at him. David froze. His first instinct was denial. Maybe this was part of the furniture. A defect. Something harmless. But when he pressed a small button on the side, a green LED glowed, and his reflection blinked back in its flicker. The sound of Claire's footsteps echoed from the hallway, snapping him upright. "Everything okay?" she called. "Yeah," he said too quickly, hiding the device under a towel. "Just unpacking." She peeked in, smiling the way she always did, the practiced, gentle smile that once calmed him but now felt staged. "Dinner at 6? "Sure," he said. His voice sounded foreign, hollow. After she left, he locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the towel-covered object. His mind spun through possibilities: prank, mistake, surveillance. But who would want to record them? And why inside their bedroom? He plugged the device into his laptop. The file directory appeared instantly, dozens of videos, neatly dated over the last 6 months. The titles made his skin crawl: Night Cam_01, Night Cam_02, Bedroom_motion. He hesitated, then opened one. The screen filled with their bed, dim light, static hum. And there they were, sleeping. The camera had been running for hours, sometimes days. Then, halfway through one clip, movement, Claire getting up quietly, looking toward the camera as if she knew exactly where it was. David's chest constricted. He shut the laptop, breath trembling. Outside, he heard her laughing on the phone downstairs, a soft, familiar sound that suddenly felt menacing. He stood, staring at the mirror, the faint red light now gone. The house that once felt safe now pulsed with secrets. For the first time in 8 years, David locked the bedroom door from the inside. And as he sat there in silence, one thought looped endlessly in his mind: how long has someone been watching us? David didn't sleep that night. The hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the creak of the pipes, even the ticking of the clock sounded amplified, intrusive, like the house itself was breathing. He sat upright on the bed, eyes fixed on the mirror he had returned to its place, pretending nothing was wrong. Only now, every reflection felt alive, as though something on the other side could see him too. At 2:17 a.m., a faint blink of light flashed again, the same red dot, pulsing once, then fading. David's pulse raced. He threw off the sheets, stepped closer, and stared into the mirror. Nothing. Just his pale face, half swallowed by darkness. By morning, he had made a decision. He wouldn't tell Claire. Not yet. He needed proof, something real. So while she was at work, he locked himself in the bedroom again and took out the hidden device. This time, he copied all the files from its storage onto an external drive. When the progress bar finally hit 100%, he opened the first folder. The footage started innocently, angles of their bed, the window, the door. Then came nights he recognized. Birthdays, arguments, moments of intimacy that made his stomach twist with nausea. He scrubbed through, searching for answers, until one video froze him in place. It was dated from 3 weeks ago. He remembered being out of town for a client meeting that night. The video showed Claire sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing one of his shirts, staring toward the mirror. Her expression was distant, scared maybe. She whispered something he couldn't hear. Then, a shadow entered the frame. A man. David's hands trembled as he leaned closer. The man's face never fully entered the light, but his voice was soft, familiar, a tone David had heard 100 times over barbecues and game nights. "He won't find out, Claire. Relax." David felt his breath catch. The voice belonged to Mark, his closest friend since college. He slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing through the empty house. His stomach lurched, cold sweat gathering on his neck. The clock on the wall ticked slower, mocking him. Every memory of the three of them, dinners, vacations, jokes, twisted into something rotten. When Claire came home that evening, David forced a smile, swallowing the storm inside. "Rough day?" she asked, setting her bag down. "Yeah," he said, eyes avoiding hers. "You?" "Busy. Parents' meeting ran late." She kissed his cheek, her perfume familiar yet suffocating. He nodded, silent. That night, as she changed into her nightgown, he watched her reflection in the mirror. She moved naturally, unaware, humming softly, the same tune she always did before bed. He pretended to sleep when she climbed beside him, but his eyes stayed open in the dark. Hours passed before he whispered to himself, "Why would you do this to me, Claire?" But the house gave no answer, only that faint electronic hum again, somewhere beyond the walls, like another device waking up. David sat up suddenly, heart pounding. The sound came from above, from the smoke detector blinking faintly near the ceiling. He stared, realization sinking in like ice. There was more than one camera. David woke before sunrise, though he hadn't truly slept. His pillow was damp, his jaw aching from the hours spent clenching it. The smoke detector above him blinked once, then stilled, silent, innocent, watching. He climbed onto a chair and twisted the detector open. Inside, behind the plastic casing, a second camera lens stared back at him. His stomach flipped. Whoever had installed it hadn't just wanted to see, they'd wanted to listen. The tiny microphone wire coiled like a vein through the ceiling plaster. He ripped the device out, heart hammering, and stumbled to his desk. Plugging it into the same laptop, he waited for the files to appear. Again, a folder, timestamps, video logs. He clicked the most recent one, hands trembling. The footage was darker this time, static at the edges, the perspective from above their bed. Claire was there, sitting cross-legged, face lit by the faint blue glow of her phone. Then she looked straight up, right into the lens, and smiled faintly as if greeting someone. David's throat closed. She whispered something too quiet to hear, before turning toward the door. Moments later, another figure entered, tall, broad-shouldered. The camera auto-focused on his movement, and for the first time, the light caught his face. David froze, breath gone. His oldest friend. The man who toasted at his wedding, who helped him build this very house. There he was, walking into David's bedroom like it belonged to him. Claire stood, hesitant as Mark reached for her hand. "Don't," she said weakly, her voice barely audible even on the recording. He said something back, too low for the microphone, and kissed her. She didn't resist. David slammed the laptop shut, his heartbeat a drum against his ribs. He pressed his palms against his eyes until white light danced behind them, until his breathing slowed, but the image wouldn't fade. Mark's face. Claire's hand in his. The quiet complicity between them. He stood and stared at the mirror across the room. His reflection looked alien, eyes sunken, mouth trembling. "It's not real," he whispered. "It can't be real." But the files said otherwise. By mid-morning, he was pacing the living room, trying to think rationally. Maybe it was an old video. Maybe they were setting something up, a trap, a blackmail. There had to be some explanation other than betrayal. Still, Every theory collapsed under the weight of what he had seen. When Claire returned from work, David watched her move through the house with practiced calm, setting her keys down, changing her shoes, humming the same tune. "You're quiet lately," she said lightly. "Just tired." "You sure?" He nodded, forcing a small smile. "Yeah, just work stress." But later that night, when she reached for him in bed, he turned away. Her hand lingered on his back for a moment, then retreated. Silence grew between them, heavy and deliberate. Claire eventually drifted into sleep, her breathing steady. David lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The smoke detector was gone, but he could still feel it watching. He reached for his phone, scrolling to Mark's contact. His thumb hovered over the call button, then stopped. He needed to know why before confronting either of them. He needed to see everything, every recording, every secret. Only then would he decide what to do. David opened the laptop again. The final video thumbnail showed a figure standing in the hallway, outside their bedroom door. The timestamp was from last night. His blood ran cold. The figure in the hallway haunted David all night. He replayed the final seconds of that video until dawn, each viewing eroding what was left of his sanity. The silhouette was motionless, barely distinguishable, but unmistakably there. Someone had been standing outside their bedroom door, watching. By morning, David's eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling as he made coffee. Claire noticed immediately. "You didn't sleep again," she said gently. He forced a smile. "Deadlines." She hesitated, then kissed his cheek. "Try to rest when I'm gone." When the door closed behind her, the silence in the house became unbearable. It wasn't quiet, not truly. There was always some faint noise. A low hum behind the walls. A whisper that felt alive. David moved through each room, checking corners, sockets, vents. He unscrewed a light fixture, pried open a vent grill, even pulled apart a picture frame. Nothing. Then, in the living room, as he stood beneath the ceiling fan, he heard it, a soft, rhythmic click-click, coming from inside the wall near the fireplace. He leaned in, ear pressed to the drywall. The sound stopped. He swallowed hard. "Who's there?" he whispered, instantly regretting it. The house said nothing back. An hour later, he grabbed a screwdriver and began chipping at the corner seam of the wall. Behind a thin layer of plaster, his tool struck metal. His pulse surged. He pried it open wider, revealing a small circular device wedged between insulation and wiring. Another camera, tiny and black, its light blinking weakly. "Jesus Christ," he breathed. His first instinct was to call the police, but what would he say? That his own home had become a surveillance lab? That his wife's lover might also be his stalker? Instead, he dialed the landlord, Mr. Hammond. "Hey, I need to ask something strange," David began, trying to keep his voice steady. "Has anyone been inside the house recently? Maintenance? Repairs?" "Not in months," Hammond replied. "Why?" "There are devices inside the walls." The pause. Then the landlord laughed awkwardly. "Come on, David. You're joking, right?" David's jaw tightened. "I'm not." The landlord sighed. "Look, the house has been yours since the remodel. No one else has been in there. If something's in the wall, you must have put it there." The call ended with static. David stood frozen, phone still in hand, the words echoing. "You must have put it there." By evening, Claire returned. She found him sitting on the floor, surrounded by fragments of plaster and wires. "What happened?" she gasped. "I found another one," he said quietly. "Another what?" He lifted the tiny camera toward her. Her face went pale. "David, where did you get that?" "Inside our wall." She stepped back, eyes darting toward the hallway. I didn't." "You didn't what?" he snapped. "Didn't notice the cameras? Or didn't want to?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I swear, I didn't know. I thought, maybe it was..." She stopped herself, shaking her head. "Maybe it was what?" But Claire turned away, trembling. That night, she locked herself in the guest room. David lay awake on the couch, staring into the shadows, the faint hum still whispering behind the walls, like someone breathing just out of sight. The sun rose to a quiet house, but nothing about that silence felt peaceful. The air was heavy, charged, like something waiting to snap. David sat at the kitchen table, still in the same clothes from the night before, staring at the small black camera resting between his fingers. He'd replayed the argument with Claire in his head for hours. Her voice, her hesitation, the way she'd locked herself away, every moment replayed like broken footage. He heard her door open upstairs. Slow footsteps descended the stairs. Claire appeared in the doorway, hair messy, eyes rimmed red. She looked fragile, exhausted, but guarded. "Did you sleep?" she asked softly. "No," David replied flatly. "Did you?" She shook her head. "We can't keep doing this." He set the camera on the table between them. "Then tell me the truth." Claire's gaze fell to the device. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then quietly, "I installed them." David blinked. "You what?" She swallowed hard, tears already threatening to spill. "Not all of them. Just the first one. The mirror. I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far." His heart began to pound. "Why would you put a camera in our bedroom, Claire?" Her lips trembled. "Because I thought someone was breaking in." He frowned. "Breaking in? Into our bedroom?" She nodded. "You travel so often, David. And a few months ago, I'd wake up hearing noises, whispers, footsteps. I thought maybe someone was watching us from outside. I bought a camera online, just to feel safe. But when I checked the footage," she hesitated. "It showed someone standing in the hallway. Every time I tried to delete it, it reappeared." David stared, confused and angry. "You're saying you were scared?" "Yes," she snapped, her voice cracking. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd think I was paranoid. And when I tried to take the camera down, it was back the next day. I don't even know who has the footage anymore." Her words hung between them, trembling. David wanted to believe her, but pieces didn't fit. "What about Mark?" he asked quietly. "You didn't seem scared when he was here." Claire froze. Her eyes darted away, guilt flooding her face. "You saw that," she whispered. "I saw everything." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "It was a mistake. He came over one night when you were gone. I was scared, and he said he could help me find who was behind the cameras. I thought he was protecting me, David. But then, her voice broke. Then he kissed me. I didn't stop him." David's hands clenched on the table. His voice trembled with fury and disbelief. "You let him in our house. You let him touch you in our bed." "I didn't want this," she cried. "I was terrified. I didn't know who to trust." He stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. "You trusted him." Silence swallowed the kitchen. Only the clock ticked between them, marking the seconds of a marriage unraveling. Finally, Claire whispered, "If you don't believe me, call the police. I have nothing left to hide." David stared at her, the woman he once knew, or thought he did, and saw nothing but contradictions. Fear, guilt, sorrow, truth, and lies tangled so tightly he couldn't tell them apart. He walked away without another word. Upstairs, he opened the laptop again, scrolling through the files. One folder he hadn't noticed before caught his eye, labeled simply, "Guest Room Feed." The timestamp read 2 days ago. David sat frozen before the laptop, the words "Guest Room Feed" glowing on the screen. His pulse thudded in his ears. 2 days ago, when Claire had locked herself in there after their argument. His trembling fingers clicked open the folder. The first video showed the guest room from an elevated corner, another hidden lens. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, knees drawn to her chest, crying silently. For several minutes she just stared at the door, whispering something too faint to catch. Then a knock. "Who is it?" she said shakily. A man's voice answered, low and unfamiliar. "It's me. Open up." David's blood went cold. The voice didn't belong to Mark, or anyone he recognized. The figure that entered wore gloves, a hood, and moved like someone who knew the room well. He didn't speak again. He simply placed something small on the nightstand, another device, and left. David slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. There was someone else. Someone still coming into the house. That's when he made the call. By noon, Detective Sarah Morales stood in their living room, sharp-eyed and calm, her badge glinting against her dark blazer. She listened silently as David explained everything. The mirror camera, the wall device, the footage, even the affair. When he finished, she exhaled slowly. You did the right thing by calling. But you should have done it sooner. I didn't know what was real anymore, David admitted. She nodded sympathetically, then motioned to her partner to begin sweeping the house. Within minutes, the officers uncovered 2 additional microcameras, one behind the bookshelf, another hidden in a vent above the kitchen. Each was the same brand, same custom wiring. Sarah crouched beside one of the recovered devices. These aren't consumer models, she said. They're modified. Whoever set this up knew exactly what they were doing. Claire, pale and silent, stood near the doorway. Can you tell who it was? She asked weakly. Maybe, Sarah replied. If the footage wasn't wiped. David opened the laptop again, showing her the files. Sarah inserted a portable drive and began copying everything. Then, something caught her eye, several timestamps with missing footage. These gaps, she muttered. They're too clean. Someone's been editing remotely. What does that mean? David asked. It means your house wasn't just being recorded, Sarah said grimly. It was being monitored live. The room fell silent. Claire covered her mouth, trembling. Do you think Mark? David began. Sarah shook her head. Not sure yet. But whoever's behind this is technically skilled and close enough to access your Wi-Fi. It's not random. One of the officers stepped in. Detective, you'll want to see this. He handed her a printed frame captured from the latest footage, a still of the guest room door. In the reflection of the mirror, a blurred figure could be seen. Sarah adjusted her glasses, squinting. It's not clear, she murmured, but it's definitely not Mark. David felt the ground shift beneath him. Then who the hell is it? Sarah looked up, her expression hardening. That's what we're going to find out. But I'll tell you this, whoever he is, he's been in this house more recently than either of you think. Detective Sarah Morales sat at David's dining table, her laptop surrounded by evidence bags. The air was thick with the faint smell of coffee and fear. Files blinked across the screen, dozens of timestamps, folders, and corrupted logs. Each one hinted at something larger, something intentional. David hovered nearby, restless. You said some of the footage was deleted. Can you recover it? Sarah didn't look up. Maybe. Whoever did this was smart. They wiped hours, not clips. Clean cuts every time you left town. Claire, sitting opposite her, whispered, So it wasn't random? No, Sarah said flatly. It was planned. Someone knew your routine. David's stomach churned. You mean, they were inside when I wasn't here? Sarah nodded. And based on what I've seen, they weren't just watching. They were waiting. A chill passed through the room. David sat down, staring blankly at the laptop screen. The word waiting echoed in his mind like a threat. Sarah connected the memory cards one by one. Lines of code scrolled rapidly until a small window popped up, restored frames to MP4. The recovered clip played automatically. It was grainy, distorted, but the images were clear enough. A darkened hallway, faint light from the guest room door. A man entered, half covered by a hood. He walked toward the camera, then turned it deliberately toward the wall. Before the lens went black, a single frame caught his wrist, a distinct tattoo of an eye inside a triangle. Sarah paused the video. That's a symbol, she muttered. Could be a gang mark, or something personal. David leaned forward. I've seen that before. Where? He hesitated. Uncle. The neighbor. He has that same tattoo on his forearm. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Oh, the one next door. Yeah. He's always been watches people. Once told me he used to install home security systems for a living. That was enough for Sarah. She ordered her team to pull Cole's background. While they worked, David stood at the window watching the house across the street. Its curtains perfectly still, blinds half closed. Claire's phone buzzed suddenly, startling her. A text flashed across the screen from an unknown number. He's watching again. Don't trust anyone. Her breath hitched. Sarah, oh, look at this. The detective read the message, frowning. Did you get others like this? Claire nodded slowly. 2, maybe 3, over the past month. David turned sharply. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know what to believe, she cried. It sounded like a prank or a threat. Sarah took the phone. This number's masked. Could be from a virtual SIM. But whoever sent it knew about the cameras. They're inside this circle. Outside, thunder rolled over the horizon. Rain streaked the windows, turning the world outside into shifting shadows. Sarah packed up her laptop. I'll get a warrant for Cole's house. If he's involved, we'll know by morning. David nodded. Claire clutched her phone tightly, knuckles white. But as Sarah stepped out into the rain, David noticed something on the floor beneath the kitchen vent. A thin strip of black tape, freshly peeled. He knelt and lifted it. It was the corner of another lens. Rain still poured when Detective Sarah Morales and her team arrived at Cole Bennett's house just past midnight. The neighborhood was silent, streetlights flickering through the mist. David stood on his porch across the street, watching the scene unfold, sirens muted, flashlights cutting through the dark. Sarah knocked once, hard. Police! Open up! No answer. She motioned to the tech officer, who began working on the lock. Within moments, the door creaked open, revealing a dim hallway lined with photographs, hundreds of them. At first glance, they seemed ordinary, people smiling at barbecues, family trips, sunsets. But as Sarah looked closer, her blood ran cold. Every photograph was taken from a distance. Through windows. Across streets. Some showed Claire watering the garden. Others captured David leaving for work. And in several, Sarah saw herself, standing outside the precinct, unaware of the camera fixed on her. This isn't random, she whispered. He's been documenting them for months. In the living room, the tech officer uncovered a workstation. 5 monitors glowing in the dark, each showing different feeds. David's house. The street. Even the small cafe where Claire worked part-time. Sarah leaned closer and saw the timestamps, live. He's still watching, she muttered. Meanwhile, David stepped out of his house despite Sarah's warning. Rain soaked his clothes as he crossed the street, his mind spinning. He needed to see it, to face the man who had invaded his life. When he entered, Sarah turned sharply. David, you shouldn't. But he was already staring at the monitors. One screen showed his bedroom, the very same frame where he'd first noticed the blinking light. His throat tightened. He was inside our home. Sarah nodded grimly. And not just once. She clicked through the files. Hidden folders appeared, names, dates, video clips. One was titled, Project Eden. Inside, they found videos spanning almost 2 years. Footage of couples. Arguments. Affairs. Private lives reduced to data. What the hell is this? David whispered. Sarah scrolled through a document file. Lines of text appeared, meticulous notes in Cole's handwriting. Observation subjects, David and Claire. Emotional response test progressing. Stage 3 successful. Emotional response test? She repeated. He's not just a voyeur. He's experimenting. Then came the sound, footsteps overhead. Everyone froze. Sarah drew her weapon and gestured silently toward the staircase. The creaking continued, slow, deliberate. They ascended carefully, flashlights cutting through the dark. At the top landing was a locked door. Sarah kicked it open. Inside, the air was heavy with mildew and dust. A single cot sat in the corner, and beside it, an entire wall covered in screens. Every inch displayed looping footage. Claire sleeping, David shaving, the kitchen vent camera from earlier. But one feed was different. It wasn't from David's house. It showed a dim, unfamiliar room, where a woman sat tied to a chair, sobbing softly. Sarah's voice trembled. Who is that? David's eyes widened as recognition struck. That's Emily, Cole's ex-wife. She went missing last year. Before Sarah could respond, one of the monitors flickered, and a new feed appeared. Cole's face filled the screen, smiling. Detective Morales, his voice said through the speakers. You shouldn't have come here. Some secrets aren't meant to be found. The screen went black. The storm raged louder as Detective Sarah Morales motioned her team to sweep the house. Every step echoed through the narrow halls, every shadow seemed to shift. The monitors downstairs still hummed faintly, casting a blue light up the staircase. David stood frozen, soaked in rain and disbelief. Cole's voice, calm, taunting, still rang in his ears. Some secrets aren't meant to be found. Sarah's radio crackled. Basement's clear. No sign of him. She frowned. Check the garage. He's somewhere nearby. Then the sound. A faint creak from outside the back door. Sarah signaled silence, raised her weapon, and moved toward the noise. David followed, despite her glare. They stepped out into the downpour, rain slashing sideways, blurring everything into gray. Under the streetlight stood Cole Bennett. His hood was down, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes wild. A pistol gleamed in his shaking hand. "Stay where you are," Sarah shouted, voice cutting through the storm. Cole smiled faintly. "You finally saw it, didn't you? My work." David took a step forward. "You call that work? You terrorized us. You broke into our lives." Cole's expression hardened. "You don't understand. I was studying behavior. How people destroy themselves when they think they're being watched. You and Claire were perfect subjects." Sarah circled slowly, trying to get an angle. "Is that what happened to your wife? Emily?" Cole's jaw twitched. The pistol trembled slightly. "She wasn't supposed to leave. She ruined everything. I had to stop her before she exposed me." David's voice cracked. "You killed her?" Cole's laughter was hollow, echoing under the rain. "No, David. You killed her. All of people like you made her weak. She believed in love, in honesty. But there's no truth left in anyone." Sarah's tone turned firm. "Put the gun down, Cole. It's over." Cole took a slow breath, eyes darting between them. "No, detective. It's just beginning. You think I was watching only you? Look around. Every house, every room, people lie, cheat, hide. I just showed them their reflection." David lunged forward suddenly, grabbing Cole's arm. The two struggled, slipping in the mud, the gun flashing between them. A shot rang out, sharp and deafening. Silence. Cole collapsed to his knees, clutching his shoulder. Sarah rushed forward, kicking the gun away. "Stay down," she yelled, handcuffing him swiftly as rain washed over them. David staggered back, chest heaving. "He's insane," he whispered. "He was watching everyone." Sarah glanced toward the house. "We'll find every device he planted, every file. This ends tonight." But as Cole sat bleeding in the mud, he began to smile again, a slow, knowing smile that chilled her. "You can't erase what people are willing to hide," he said quietly. "Check the last feed, detective. The truth is still recording." Sarah frowned, but before she could ask, Cole's eyes rolled back. He passed out as paramedics arrived. Moments later, inside the house, Sarah opened the final folder on Cole's system, Live 04. The feed wasn't from any of the known cameras. It showed a new angle, inside David's house. The same bedroom. Only now, Claire sat on the bed, crying into her hands. David froze. When was this? Sarah checked the timestamp. 10 minutes ago. But she was supposed to be at the station. The screen flickered. A shadow moved behind Claire, someone standing just out of frame. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "There's someone else." Thunder roared above as the video went black. The storm had eased by dawn, but the air inside David's house felt heavier than ever, like the walls themselves were listening. Detective Sarah Morales sat in front of Cole's confiscated equipment, trying to trace the final feed. Each monitor blinked with fragments of corrupted footage, the cursor flickering over the name Live 04, the one showing Claire moments before the blackout. David paced behind her, restless, his face pale and hollow. "You said that video was 10 minutes old. If she's still in the house, where is she now?" Sarah didn't answer immediately. She rewound the footage, frame by frame. Then she stopped, just before the screen went dark. A sliver of movement. A reflection in the mirror behind Claire. The faint outline of a man's arm. Not Cole's. The wrist was unmarked, no teeth. Sarah zoomed in, heart pounding. "That's not him." David froze. Then who? A sudden crash echoed from upstairs. Both turned sharply. David grabbed a flashlight while Sarah drew her gun, moving cautiously up the steps. The floorboards groaned under their feet. "Claire?" Sarah called. No answer. Only the distant hum of rain against glass. They reached the bedroom door. It was ajar, the same place where this nightmare began. Sarah nudged it open, and there she was. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, head bowed, hair dripping wet. Her hands were trembling. David rushed toward her. "Claire." "Thank God," I thought. She flinched at his touch. "Don't." Her voice was hollow, trembling. "Please, don't touch me." Sarah lowered her weapon slightly. "Claire, we saw you on the feed. Someone was with you. Who was it?" Claire didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, she lifted her eyes, red, swollen, terrified. "It was him," she whispered. "The one who installed everything. But it wasn't Cole." David frowned. "What are you talking about? Cole was the one." "No," Claire interrupted sharply, voice cracking. "Cole didn't put the first camera in our house. I did." Silence filled the room. David stepped back as if struck. "What?" Tears streamed down her face. "It started a year ago. I thought you were lying to me, disappearing for hours, keeping secrets. Cole offered to help me find the truth. He said he'd set up a small camera, just one, to ease my mind. But then he never stopped. He added more. He said it was for protection. I didn't realize what he'd become until it was too late." Sarah's expression hardened. "So you knew about the surveillance?" "I knew parts of it," Claire sobbed. "But the last few weeks, he wasn't alone anymore. Someone else was helping him, someone inside the department." Sarah's pulse quickened. "Inside my department?" Claire nodded. "He said she was feeding him information, your movements, your reports. He called her his guardian." Sarah's eyes widened. Guardian. That was the code name she'd seen in Cole's files, under encrypted correspondence. She'd assumed it was a nickname for Emily. But what if it wasn't? Before she could respond, static erupted from one of the monitors behind them. The screen flickered, showing live footage from the same bedroom they were in now. The angle shifted, focusing on them. David spun around. "That's impossible. We're right here." Sarah followed the signal on her laptop. The source wasn't local, it was remote, routed through the police network itself. Claire covered her mouth in horror. He said she'd keep watching even if he got caught. Sarah's blood ran cold. He wasn't lying. As the image zoomed closer, Sarah noticed something chilling, the faint reflection of a woman's badge in the camera lens. Her own precinct's insignia. 6 months later, the courtroom was silent except for the hum of the overhead lights. Rain drizzled outside. Fitting, David thought, for the day everything would finally come to light. He sat rigidly in the front row, eyes fixed on the defendant's table where Detective Lisa Grant, Sarah Morales' former partner, sat in handcuffs, face expressionless. The woman once trusted to uphold the law had become the missing piece in Cole's twisted puzzle. Across the aisle, Sarah watched her with restrained fury. She had spent months piecing together what Cole called Project Eden. Every recording, every file, every encrypted message pointed to one conclusion. Lisa had been the guardian, the one supplying Cole with information, access codes, and police intel. The prosecutor stood, voice calm but cutting. "Detective Grant, you aided and abetted Cole Bennett in multiple counts of unlawful surveillance, obstruction of justice, and the concealment of Emily Bennett's death. Do you deny any of this?" Lisa smirked faintly. "You think this is about voyeurism? About cameras and files?" Her voice was steady, eerie. "Cole saw what the rest of you refused to see, the truth about people. He wanted to expose it. I just gave him the means." The judge banged the gavel sharply. "Ms. Grant, this is not a platform for your philosophies. Answer the question." But Lisa only looked toward Sarah. "You were supposed to understand, Morales. You saw how easily everyone lied. The husband, the wife, even your own team. You think you stopped us? The recordings never stopped." A murmur swept through the courtroom. Sarah felt her pulse race. The recordings never stopped. Outside the courtroom, during recess, Sarah cornered the prosecutor. What did she mean by that? He sighed. We thought we'd recovered everything. But there's a new encrypted drive we can't access, one Cole labeled Eden Archive. IT says it's locked with a biometric key. Cole's? Sarah asked. The prosecutor hesitated. No. Hers. Sarah's stomach tightened. Lisa's? He nodded. Back inside, the defense requested to play a piece of evidence, a short video recovered from Cole's home, titled Trial Tape _01. The courtroom lights dimmed, and the footage began. At first, it showed the inside of Cole's basement, the wall of monitors, the cot, the chaos left behind. Then the camera tilted, revealing a new angle none of them had seen before. A close-up of Cole himself, recorded days before his arrest. If you're watching this, Cole said calmly, then the experiment succeeded. The watchers became the watched. Detective Morales. This was never about David or Claire. They were variables. The real subject was you. And Lisa, if she understood that. Sarah's breath caught. The courtroom seemed to vanish around her. Cole leaned closer to the camera. You think you ended it, but you only shifted it. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal, it's all still out there. You just need to look in the right place. The screen went black. The judge called for order, but Sarah could barely hear him. Her mind was spinning. The Eden Archive. Cole's words weren't taunts, they were instructions. After the session ended, Sarah stepped outside into the rain, trembling. David followed her quietly. It's over, isn't it? He asked. She looked at him, haunted. No, it's not over. Not if that archive still exists. He frowned. So what happens now? Sarah's phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. Detective, you left something behind. Attached was a video, grainy, familiar. It showed Sarah's own apartment. The timestamp, 10 minutes ago. Her fingers went cold. The rain had stopped, but the city still glistened, wet streets reflecting the flicker of neon lights. Detective Sarah Morales climbed the narrow stairwell of her apartment building, exhaustion weighing on every step. It had been 4 days since the trial ended. Lisa was gone, transferred to a federal facility. David and Claire had left town, trying to rebuild what little remained of their lives. But Sarah couldn't sleep. Not since that message. You left something behind. The attached footage, her own apartment, recorded from somewhere unseen, had burrowed deep into her mind. She'd torn her place apart after seeing it, vents, mirrors, sockets, even the fire alarm. Nothing. Not a single camera. Yet the video existed. She unlocked her door slowly, the metallic click echoing like a warning. Inside, the air felt heavy and sterile. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, still running the decryption software for Cole's final drive, Eden Archive. The progress bar read 99%. Sarah dropped her keys and sat down, heart pounding. The cursor blinked, the room completely silent except for the faint hum of her computer. Then, a soft chime. The file opened. Inside the archive were hundreds of folders. Not names, but coordinates. IP addresses. Each one labeled with dates. She clicked one randomly, and froze. Live footage appeared. A man brushing his teeth. Another folder, a woman tucking her child into bed. Another, a police precinct office, empty except for a single desk. Her desk. Sarah's throat tightened. No, no, no. The feed zoomed in slightly, as if responding to her presence. Then the speakers crackled, and a familiar voice filled the room, calm, deliberate, almost amused. Cole Bennett, welcome back, detective. I told you the recordings never stopped. Her stomach turned. You're dead, Cole. You're gone. His voice continued, pre-recorded yet unsettlingly timed. You think I'd leave the truth in your hands? Project Eden wasn't a single experiment. It was a network. Lisa understood that. Every watcher has another watching them. Including you. Sarah tried to close the program, but the mouse froze. The screen flickered, static, distortion, then another window opened on its own. New folder, room _09. The footage inside showed a dimly lit space, White walls, no windows, one steel chair. The same room that appeared briefly in Cole's files months ago. Only this time, it wasn't empty. Someone sat there. The camera panned slowly, revealing a woman, hair disheveled, eyes wide, restrained at the wrists. Sarah leaned closer, breath shallow. It was Lisa Grant. "Impossible," she whispered. "She's in federal custody." But Lisa looked straight into the camera, as if hearing her. "You're next, Sarah," she said faintly. "They told me the same thing." The screen cut to black. The laptop beeped once, then powered down entirely. Every light in the apartment flickered out. The silence that followed was unbearable. Sarah reached for her phone, but it vibrated before she touched it. A new text appeared, no number, no name. "There's one room left." She stared at the message, trembling. Then she looked up, and realized the floor vent across from her desk was slightly ajar, just enough to see the glint of something metallic inside. Heart hammering, she approached slowly, gripping a screwdriver from the counter. The metal plate came loose with a faint screech. Inside, she found a small black device. A transmitter, still blinking red. She yanked it out, threw it onto the floor, and stomped hard. The light died instantly. For a moment, the apartment was completely still. Then, faintly, her laptop powered itself back on. No input, no electricity. The same voice whispered through the speakers again, lower now, almost intimate. "Cole, you broke the eye, but the eye isn't the camera, detective. The eye is the mind that watches." Sarah's breath came fast and shallow. She turned in a slow circle, scanning every corner of her apartment, every reflection. No sound, no movement. Yet she could feel it, the same suffocating sense of being seen. She walked to her bathroom mirror and stared at herself. Rainwater dripped from her coat. Her reflection looked back, eyes bloodshot, trembling, fractured. And then, for the briefest instant, her reflection smiled before she did. The sound of static filled the apartment. Sarah stumbled back, grabbing her gun, aiming it at the mirror, but the reflection was gone. The glass only showed the empty room behind her. Outside, thunder rolled one last time. By morning, when the building's maintenance crew entered to check the power outage, the apartment was empty. The laptop was gone. The only thing left was a small note, taped to the wall above the vent. "There's no such thing as a room without cameras." End of story. The husband who found a hidden camera in his own bedroom.